Hello there, my name is Josh McFraggle, transformative media creator and social justice yarn lord. I have spent many years analysing society and putting in intensive research from the safety of my drawer, and feel now is the time for me to share my teachings with you, the goodly, decent people of the internet. Before I begin, I want to let you know I identify as female, and so, as per the recommendation of the UN report, Cyber Violence Against Women and Girls, disagreeing with me, and even watching this video if you do not accept my word as factual truth, constitutes a vicious case of cyber violence. Let this serve as a warning to any shitlords who may have stumbled across this before you went forward with illegally watching this content. I would hate Jean-Claude Van Damme and his task force to descend upon you without fair warning.
You've lost your balls.
I'll wait 1 second to allow you to close the browser or app while you go and check your privilege. Now we have dispensed with the undesirables, I want to share with you today the most insidious tool of the patriarchy. Something that has been used against women of all sexes for millennia. Mass privilege. Before I define this fully and explain how it is problematic, I would like to share a little background. First of all, there's a fundamental misunderstanding regarding the statement that there is a 1-to-1 ratio of men to women globally. According to many regional surveys, the birth rate is closer to 1.1 men for every woman. This means globally, if you take the total population as 7 billion, there are around 3.36 billion women and 3.64 billion men. This means there are close to 30 million more men than women, which is the equivalent of the population of misogynistic hellholes like Saudi Arabia or Texas. Therefore, women only make up 48% of the population, rather than the 1-to-1 ratio that people like to state. So the next time someone tells you they're speaking about half the planet, be sure to check their privilege, because it is in fact 0.96 to 1. But women are not just a minority the minute they are born, they are also a minority in the total biomass of the species. This represents a much greater proportion of difference and forces women into more of a minority. This is the mass privilege. Current teachings by our most keen social justice scholars, such as Anit Sarkeesian, has explained how an individual is irrelevant to feminism, that all women must collectively become empowered.
I had to learn how systems of oppression are maintained by our participation in them, but they're also self-perpetuating via paths of least resistance, and as such, are larger than any one person's choices. Okay, so this is the part where I say things that may ruffle some feathers, but I think it's a critical discussion to have. So over the past few years, I've become increasingly worried about the direction mainstream internet feminism appears to be headed, at least in the West. Unfortunately, many contemporary discourses in and around feminism tend to emphasize a form of hyper-individualism, which is informed by that neoliberal worldview. More and more, I hear variations on this idea that anything that any woman personally chooses to do is a feminist act. This attitude is often referred to as choice feminism. Choice feminism posits that each individual woman determines what is empowering for herself, which might sound good on the surface, but this concept risks obscuring the bigger picture and larger fundamental goals of the movement by focusing on individual women with a very narrow individual notion of empowerment. It erases the reality that some choices that women make have an enormous negative impact on other women's lives. So it's not enough to feel personally empowered or be personally successful within the oppressive framework of the current system. Even if an individual woman can make patriarchy work for her, it's still a losing game for the rest of the women on the planet.
So now we understand the individual means nothing, we need to look at the means of collectivism, and that women are a single amorphous blob. This is why mass privilege is so significant. When you look at the average body weight of men and women across several countries, you will see a dramatic difference between men and women. Now, you can see that in every country the males weigh more than females by an average of 28.6 pounds, and when you order these by greatest difference to least difference, as I have, you'll notice something. The higher the difference, the whiter the country is. Sweden is practically the whitest country in the world that has a society built on the toxic masculinity of Viking culture. Their pretenses at feminism don't fool me. The only reason they tax alcohol so much is because they know the second the men get drunk, they will go boarding longboats and go off to rape anyone they can find. Also, due to the nature of intersectionality, The heaviest and therefore most empowered women is the American woman, and you should therefore, American women, check your privilege against any South Korean or Brazilian people you may come across of either gender, and any woman of any other nation. However, treating women as a single amorphous mass means we need to consider the total weight of all the women in the world. Here you can see that the total mass of women is 491.6 billion pounds, whereas the total mass of men is 636.6 billion pounds, making males 146 billion pounds heavier than females. This means women only make up 43.58% of the human race, or 0.87 to 1. And so is even more of a minority than when you consider people as individuals. As this number is the most shocking, it must therefore be the one that is used. Now we must consider what is the reason for this discrepancy. Are men just naturally larger in general due to bone structure, bone density, hormone levels, height and muscle mass? Of course not. It is clearly understood that human beings are not a sexually dimorphic species. Men and women are entirely interchangeable, and it is the capitalist patriarchy that dictates the conditioning that results in the net difference between genders, as some of our most learned scholars can attest.
The gender binary is an entirely artificial and socially constructed division of male and female into two distinctly separate and opposing classes of human beings.
My gender expression is almost entirely male because, beard, so on. I've got some female aspects to myself as I'm growing my hair out longer now and I like pink. My identity is female, and so those are the pronouns that I prefer.
Therefore, the difference in relative mass between males and females is a social construct. QED. The heavier male clearly has access to a greater level of resources, and is being encouraged to dominate women with their sheer bulk. Did you wonder why the advertised ideal women keep shrinking? It is the patriarchy responding to the increase in women's rights that they granted us. They are desperately trying to keep women down through body shaming, ensuring that the media is full of ever-shrinking women to be held up as an example to impressionable children. Therefore, if you want to imagine the social justice struggle, we are in a tug of war, but our team is in a deficiency almost twice the weight of the Empire State Building. It is an insurmountable battle, which is why allies can never give you enough money or resources. We are at that much of a disadvantage. Incidentally, please support my Patreon, you can find the link below. This excess £146 billion needs to be taken on by any right-minded woman. If each of you put on £28.6, women would be truly equal. However, it is unrealistic to be able to do this. We all know how many women suffer from internalized misogyny, so I would recommend every person who identifies as a woman put on £300. That way, you would be taking the burden of 9 of your sisters, and I applaud those rainbow-haired heroes who have already taken steps down this path. You owe it to your basic human rights as an oppressed minority to weigh around £450 or more, so stop trying to run around and do something, sit on social media, and eat some pie for social justice.